In a small, peaceful village in Africa, there lived a joyful little girl named Amani. Her days were filled with laughter, love, and the simple pleasures of life. She was her parents' pride and joy, their only child. Each day, as the sun rose, her parents would tell her, "Amani, you can be anything you want to be. Dream big." Those words became her compass, guiding her as she sat beneath the mighty baobab tree, listening to their stories about the world beyond. Amani dreamed big. She wanted to become a doctor, not just for herself, but for her village, for her people. But dreams, well, dreams don't come easy. One fateful day, tragedy struck. Amani's parents grew very ill, and there was no doctor around. Despite her young age, only 12, Amani tried to care for them, but it wasn't enough. Within months, they were both gone. The joy that once filled her life had been snatched away. Alone, at 12 years old, Amani stood before their graves, rain pouring down on her like the weight of the world itself. But even then, even in her darkest hour, her parents' word echoed in her heart. Dream big, Amani. Never give up. And she didn't. Amani worked, cleaning houses, working in the fields, just to survive. She was still so young, but life had given her no choice. With every coin she earned, she clung to her dream of becoming a doctor. During the day, she would attend schools, but at night, after her long hours of labor, she would sit under the baobab tree and study by the light of the moon. After finishing secondary school, she got a better job. She became a secretary in the city, working tirelessly while studying for her entrance exams. She moved into a small cramped room, a far cry from the village she once called home. But it was a step closer to her dream. When she finally got into university to study medicine, it seemed like everything was falling into place. But the road wasn't smooth, not by a long shot. The workload was heavy, the pressure overwhelming, and the financial burden, it felt like a mountain on her back. Some days, Amani wouldn't even afford to eat. She was tired, always tired, juggling multiple jobs. There were moments when the walls felt like they were closing in, when her classmates seemed to have it easier. No job to rush off to, no worry about where their next meal will come from. Amani would see them with their books and their free time, and doubts would creep in. One evening, as she sat alone in her small, dimly lit room, Amani felt like giving up. Maybe this dream is too big for me, she thought. She stared at her medical textbook, her head pounding from exhaustion. But then, she remembered her parents. She remembered the baobab tree, the stories, and their voice telling her, "Never give up, Amani. Dream big." And so, she pushed through. She worked harder than she ever thought possible. When money ran low, she took on more shifts. When sleep was scarce, she would study again. She didn't have the luxury of comforts, but she had the strength of her dream. The strength of her dream. When exams came, Amani faced them head on. She passed, sometimes by the skin of her teeth, but she passed. One step at a time, one struggle after another. She made it through the university. Even when the world seemed to conspire against her, she kept her eyes on the medical degree. And finally, after years of relentless efforts, after every sacrifice, every tear, every sleepless night, Amani stood tall, holding her degree in her hands. She was now a doctor. She had made it. Tears filled her eyes, not just for herself, but for her parents who weren't there to see her achieve the dream they had nurtured in her heart. But somehow she knew they were watching. She knew they were watching. And they were proud. Amani returned to her village as a symbol of hope. She opened a clinic, providing care that had been so desperately needed all those years ago. The villagers who once saw her as a little girl working in the fields now looked at her with awe and admiration. She had become the doctor she had always dreamed of. But more than that, she had become a beacon for those who thought their dreams were too big, too far, and too impossible. One evening, Amani found herself once again sitting under the baobab tree. The stars twinkled above and the night was peaceful. She thought of her parents and the journey that had brought her here. She smiled, knowing her work was far from over. But as she looked up at the stars, she knew her parents were still with her. Their love and strength guiding her as she prepared to continue helping and healing and inspiring others. Amani has faced hardship. She has faced loss. She has seen struggle and doubts. But through it all, she never gave up. And in the end, it was that strength, the strength of Amani, that turned her dream into a reality.